Welcome. It's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. The Tooele City Council and Redevelopment Agency of Tooele City are meeting in a work meeting. This meeting is being held in the Tooele City Hall Council Chambers located at 90 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. We are also streaming this electronically on the Tooele City YouTube channel. We will start with a roll call. Councilwoman Goches.
Present.
Councilman Hanson.
Present.
Councilman McCall.
Present.
I'm Councilman Brady, and I'm also present, and Councilwoman Manzione has asked to be excused from this work meeting. We'll move on to item 3, which is the mayor's report.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. I just have one quick update for you this evening. As you know, that we have a very busy intersection down at 600 West and 1000 North. And so over a year ago, I think, we've been dealing with for so many years that I can't remember anymore. But about a year ago, we had convinced UDOT that we needed at least a temporary signal put in that intersection because of not only the additional traffic that is being caused by the temple when the opening happened, and then also Ken's Gym across the street has brought more traffic to that. So they were very good about getting up a temporary signal. They are in the process of redesigning that intersection, at least to widen it and make some improvements. And to our surprise, yesterday they placed a dedicated left turn signal. You can see that right there in the middle, and they did that at all 4 sections of that intersection. And so now people will be able to turn and make that a little bit safer in that area. So I hope our residents are appreciative, and I'm appreciative to UDOT for responding to our requests. And we hope that in the next year we will have that intersection completely done and increase the safety in that area. So we're grateful. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wynn. We'll move on to item 4, the council members' report. We'll start with Councilman McCall.
The only thing I attended a COG meeting last month after their last meeting. That was about it.
Okay.
I missed something else, but
There's a lot to keep track of.
I didn't make the Ritz concert, but I heard it was pretty good.
Good. Okay. Councilman Hanson.
We haven't had a meeting for a while, but which is good and bad, I guess. But anyway, it's been good overall. But I attended planning commission meetings, and I went to a couple new businesses that wanted somebody to come and talk to, so I went and did that. And holy cow, there's a lot of business growth in Tooele and lots of good things. And I get probably asked 3 times a week of what businesses are going in. 1000 North anyway, and there's 3 on the sign, so everybody's excited. So that's good. Things are good.
I think John's going to give us an update later tonight about what's
Awesome.
going to be there.
That'll be great. That way, when they ask me, I'll have more information.
People are coming in the office too.
I'm sure they are. Yeah, everybody's excited, especially my wife. It's only 2 blocks from my house, so. All right, that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilwoman Goches.
It has been a long time since we met, but we did attend the Utah League of Cities and Towns Mid-Year Convention in St. George in April, 2 weeks ago. And I also attended the Utah Women in Leadership Spring Summit. They had a lot of good information that was held at the Trust. I also attended U.S. Senator John Curtis, America and the World, and that was well attended and presented a lot of good information. Also, as was said, that we've had a lot of new businesses. I attended the ribbon cutting for a Mountain West Medical Office building. And I'd just like to remind our patrons that we have our summer reading program at the Tooele City Library. Chase Randall's going to be here to make a report, and that begins on May 27th. So we're excited for our summer reading program. School's out. We'll be out soon. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I also attended the Utah League of Cities and Town Conference. I enjoy attending that because it helps me realize that we're not the only city that has many of the same issues as other cities, but we also have our own unique problems that we deal with as well. So I learned a lot of great things there and spoke with a lot of great people who serve in other communities. Next week there, I'll have the North Tooele Special Service District meeting. We're still hopeful that the Perry's group is going to annex their property into that district. Hopefully we see that on an agenda item soon. And then on the 16th and 17th of May, the 16th, there's the Tooele City Arbor Day celebration. They'll be planting a whole bunch of trees at Glen Eagles Park. Super excited for that. And then on the 17th of May is the Tooele City Cleanup. That'll be in the Broadway area, so we encourage people to come out and be involved in cleaning up our community. That concludes my report. We'll move on to our discussion items. Our first discussion item is a discussion on proposed text amendments to Tooele City Code 7-19-35, minor residential subdivision regarding minor subdivisions in commercial and industrial zoning districts. This is presented by Andrew Agard, the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Council, for your time tonight as I present a number of items to you. The first one I'd like to discuss with you is an amendment to Tooele City Code 7-19-35, which is our ordinance that governs subdivisions, particularly minor subdivisions. The code is actually titled Minor Residential Subdivisions. And just to give you a brief understanding of where I'm coming from for this code amendment, I'd like to explain what this is. A minor residential subdivision is a tool that the city has to facilitate a more simpler subdivision process for properties if they meet three criteria as defined by the code. And those criteria are: if you do not have any dedication for a public right-of-way, if you do not contain more than 6 lots, and if it does not involve off-site water or sewer utilities, you can do a minor subdivision. What does a minor subdivision do? A minor subdivision combines the preliminary subdivision plan and the final subdivision plat into one subdivision review. So instead of going through 2 applications, you only have to do 1. This saves the applicant money on planned production costs, and it saves the applicant time. They don't have to produce 2 sets of plans, and they don't have to go through 2 applications. It also helps staff because we don't have to go through reviewing 2 sets of plans and 2 applications. The question came up, what about subdivisions in commercial and industrial zoning districts? Our ordinance currently does not address minor subdivisions in commercial and industrial zoning districts. Even if a subdivision does meet all the criteria, as we just discussed, a minor subdivision in a commercial and industrial zone should undergo a preliminary subdivision plan and a final subdivision plat. The question is asked, why? Why do we need to do that to a commercial and industrial subdivision? And this kind of demonstrates my response. I don't know why it's like that. It doesn't really need to be that way. There are no identifiable differences between a subdivision of land in a residential zone versus a commercial or an industrial zone. We do handle improvements in industrial and commercial zones through site plan approval, where in residential we do that through subdivision. But in regards to establishing property lines and ownership issues, there really isn't any difference between residential and commercial or industrial. So the solution to this is a very simple solution. We're just proposing that in 7-19-35, that the word residential be stricken from the minor subdivision ordinance. Therefore, the code will just simply read minor subdivision and would apply to any subdivision within the city. I think this is a better approach to minor subdivisions in commercial zones that don't have all of those dedication issues and so forth. So that's what we're proposing. I do have this on the agenda for the next Planning Commission meeting, but I wanted to get the City Council's input before I move it through the public process. So if you have any questions or any thoughts, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
I have a question. So how many commercial lots contain less than 6 lots? It seems like most of them would fall in this category.
Yeah, you don't see large-scale commercial subdivisions. We did have the Smith subdivision come through. I think that had 10 or 11 lots in it. But most of them in commercial and industrial zones are usually 2, 3, 4 lots. So yeah, that's an accurate observation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I'm just curious the other side of that, do you have any negative any reason that we wouldn't want to do it.
No, because
your mind.
we deal with all the improvements and so forth through site plan, which they have to have when they develop. There really isn't any need for this. Truth be told, we actually have processed commercial subdivisions this way until one day we discovered the code actually says minor residential subdivision. So it hasn't caused us any problems at all.
All right. Okay.
I
Yeah,
just
go
have one
ahead.
question. My only question was same as Chairman Brady, what size of commercial lots? Like, is it, do they need a larger footprint to be able to? Okay.
No, it's not based on size at all, it's just number of lots.
Number, okay.
Yep. Excellent questions.
Okay. We'll move on to our next discussion item, a discussion on a proposed land use map amendment application by Grow Development LLC to reassign the land use designation for 11.7 acres located at 249 East, 1000 North from medium-density residential to light industrial, presented by Andrew Agar, the Community Development Director.
So the council is probably familiar with this piece of property. A few months ago, there was an application to change the land use of this property to facilitate the construction of a townhouse development. Due to a lack of water and other resources, the council denied that application at that time. This is an application that proposes an entirely different use. It does involve the L-shaped 11-acre parcel. It's located just north of 1000 North at about 220 East. That is the Our House Assisted Living Facility on the east side. The new fire station and the helicopter pad are located to the west. The remaining property around the subject property is vacant, undeveloped ground. Just for the council's information, this is the zoning as it currently appears or currently exists for the property. The property is zoned RR5. There is a strange little wedge-shaped piece of light industrial on the west side. Don't know why that is, but there it is. Then we have RR5 LI to the west and some general commercial where the Our House Assisted Living Facility is located. The current land use designation of the property is MDR, Medium Density Residential. And what that requires is the R17, R18, and R110 residential zones. Within these zones, you can only construct single-family and two-family homes as well as ADUs, and these zones do not permit commercial activities except for ancillary home-based occupations. The applicant is requesting the land use be changed to light industrial, which is represented on our map as purple. And their desire to do so is to facilitate the construction of a flex kind of retail and light industrial combination business. The light industrial designation requires the light industrial and industrial service zoning districts. These zoning districts are specific to light industrial and heavy commercial uses that generate little impact in terms of noise, odors, vibration, dust, glare, and so forth. And these zones do not permit any residential uses other than a rare situation of a caretaker apartment, like something you'd see at a hotel or a storage facility. The applicant did provide a site plan. I included this in the presentation just for reference purposes. This plan has not been reviewed by staff for ordinance compliance, but this gives an indication, a general idea of what they're looking to do. And then there are some images that the applicant provided showing the type of product that they would like to provide or construct. I did notice this for the December 14th Planning Commission meeting, but I wanted to bring it to the council first to get your input and let you know that it'll be on a future city council meeting. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Any questions or comments? I spoke with this developer multiple times when she was trying to rezone for townhomes, and I think this is a great use of the property, and yeah, I like it. I think it's good. Okay. All right, no other discussion. Our next discussion item is item C, a discussion on proposed text amendments to Tooele City Code 7-4-4, Number of parking spaces, 7-11A-13.1. Parking, townhouses, condominiums, 7-11B-5. Design standards, mandatory elements, and Table 4 of 7-14-5. Table of minimum residential dwelling unit size regarding the number of parking spaces, guest parking, exception to the garage requirement, garage sizes, and the use of garage spaces to count towards required parking, presented by Andrew Agard.
Thank you, Chairman. This one is a little more complicated. Hopefully, I don't lose you in this one. If I do, please tell me to slow down. But the Utah State Legislature has flexed its legislative muscles yet again. And this time, they've decided to tinker with the city's parking standards and what we can and cannot enforce or require. To begin, I'll just go through some of the changes that the state is mandating for all cities. It affects Utah State Code 10-9A-534. The first change that they're making is they have redefined what is affordable housing. The state law now states that affordable housing is any housing reserved for occupancy that is priced at 80% of the county median home price. Now, I believe this new definition applies only to parking, not necessarily to our moderate income housing plan and other elements, but just strictly to parking. The second change that they have made is we cannot require that the dimension of a single parking space for a 1 or 2 family dwelling or townhome be more than 20 feet long. Right now, we require 22 feet deep garages. And so the state's saying, nope, you can only do 20. Number 3, restrict an unobstructed tandem parking space from satisfying 2 parking spaces as part of the minimum parking space requirement. Honestly, I don't understand what this means. I don't understand what it means. Maybe it's when you have 2 parking spaces that are next to each other in a long, I don't know. But it's in there. Number 4, restrict a 2-car garage from satisfying 2 parking spaces as part of a minimum parking space requirement. So now the state is saying if they have a garage, we have to count it as part of their required parking. And then number 5, if a dwelling is owner occupied and meets the state's definition of affordable housing, a city cannot require a garage for a single family attached or detached dwelling. So the state is telling us that if they come in and say, I meet the affordability criteria, you cannot make me put up a garage. We can't make them put up a garage. And then number 6, if a city requires a garage, it must count to the garage space as a part of the city's minimum parking space requirement. This is in there twice. I don't know why it's in there twice, but we already covered that. So just really quickly, I'll go over the city's current parking requirements and how this impacts our ordinances. For single-family residential, we require 2 parking spaces per unit, 1 20-foot wide by 22-foot deep garage. I apologize for the spelling error. That should be 22 feet deep. And this can apply to both attached or detached garages. It doesn't have to be attached to the house. They could have a detached garage. For multifamily residential, apartments require 2 parking spaces. Townhomes require 2 parking spaces. 50% of the spaces must be covered, either by garage or carport or other covered element. And then we require 1 guest space parking stall for every 4 units. A few years ago, before Jim Bolster departed, he and I worked on a change to our ordinance to try and accommodate a developer who wanted to count garages in their parking requirement. And we came up with this table. And this table was designed in a way that they could utilize their garage space to satisfy the required parking. Number 5 states unit has a 2-car garage with a 2-car driveway. This counts as 3 parking spaces, 2 for unit, 1 for visitor. The reason we did this is we wanted them to be able to count some of their garage and account for if they use half of their garage for storage. So we tried to find a compromise there. Well, the state has changed that. So currently with the ordinance, 2-car garage, 2-car driveway equals 3 credited parking spaces. The state's requiring that we change that. So the proposed amendments that we are presenting to the council tonight is amending table 7-11A-13-1. Basically, we're enabling all enclosed garage spaces to officially count towards the established parking. So if you have a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway, you have 4 credited parking spaces. Okay. We're also proposing a change to Tooele City Code 7-4-4, number of parking spaces. This is staff initiated, this is not the state. We are requesting that we increase the guest parking requirement from 1 parking space for every 4 dwelling units to 1 parking space for every 3. If the state's going to make us count garages, we need to accommodate parking elsewhere because people do use their garages for storage. Not everybody, but some do. I have a neighbor that does it, and it displaces the cars. So if we have to count the garages, we need to try and accommodate parking elsewhere. So we're proposing we increase the guest parking a little bit. Tooele City Code 7-11B-5, we're proposing to add an exception to the garage requirement for occupied housing priced to 80% of the county median home price. And then the same for Tooele City Code Table 7-14-5. We're proposing the addition of footnotes and then a note also describing the exception for 80% of the median county home prices. And then the final amendment is just changing the 22-foot garage depth to 20 feet. We do believe that these amendments will bring us into compliance with the state code. And I just wanted to run it by the council before I move it to the Planning Commission and get your feedback and input. Any questions, I can answer those for you.
Do you know what the 80% median value of a home is right now?
I do not. And I'm sure it changes
It will fluctuate, yeah.
regularly.
It's the county, though, it's not the city.
It's the county. Yep.
Chris?
Year to date, so we're only less than halfway through the year, you're 471.
471.
I'm sorry, median is 471.
Median's 471. Okay.
And that will require some research on staff. When somebody comes in and says, I meet the affordability, we're going to have to confirm that.
Okay.
And we really don't have a choice. The state mandated that. We have to change it.
Yep, that's state law.
Mandates are not fun.
Yeah. Now, is the reason we had it 22 feet was that to accommodate larger vehicles?
Yes, that was in there to accommodate the big trucks
My truck.
that now
Yours will?
they can't park.
But will it fit in the 20-foot garage?
No.
And that, well, I mean, the state did it, but we just talked about people using their garages for storage. If you have a truck like Ed's, it ain't gonna fit in a 20-foot garage.
Correct.
So he might as well use his brand-new house as storage.
There you go.
You know, your garage, because he automatically is gonna take up a parking space outside.
Yep.
I wonder how much this guy, never mind, I can't say that.
This is what happens when the state tries to do a one-size-fits-all approach to everything.
That's what I was wondering, because, never mind, we're good. Before I get in trouble.
Okay.
Any other questions for me? Okay.
No, I like that we're changing the parking amount to 3. I think that's a good move, and it's probably only a matter of time before the state mandates things with that as well, so, but until they mandate it, we can play the game and do our part, so
Yep.
I like it.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, thanks,
Thank you,
Andrew.
council.
Thank you.
Item D is a discussion on ordinance 2025-10, an ordinance of Tooele City enacting a temporary land use regulation, amending Tooele City Code Section 7-26-3 regarding water rights exactions, presented by Paul Hansen, the city engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm presenting this tonight on behalf of Mr. Baker, who's away at conference this week. The state legislature and the courts have established a method whereby cities, by discussing a pending ordinance, can effectively put the start of that ordinance, should you approve, to start tonight. This is an ordinance that we're not doing or looking at because of any particular developer or any particular application we have. It's simply looking forward as we try to protect the city resources. In 1998, by ordinance, if we can go to that, yeah, you got it on the screen, 7-26-3, Tooele City imposed a requirement that developers needed to provide water rights for all new development. The council since has provided a policy that allows commercial industrial the option of acquiring those through a payment in lieu, and for people that own a single existing lot or even create another second lot, have the option to acquire them through a payment in lieu option. Those are the only two exceptions to this ordinance. And when this ordinance was put in place, there were conditions that were imposed that I've listed here. I've broken it down. I've not changed any language, but just broken it so you can see the bullet points of what was considered. That the city reserved the right since 1998 to evaluate them in terms of sufficiency of annual flow, suitability for use as a municipal supply, and it's not going to compromise anything that the state would not approve it for. And then to also consider priority, historic average, and other relevant factors. As we've been trying to develop sources of water moving forward, we're finding it more difficult. There's no secret that everybody knows that it's becoming more difficult as we continue to grow with limitations. And the staff and administration are proposing a change that would insert the following language. Loretta, if you can go to that one. It would be the red. That would read, prior to acceptance of such water rights, the city shall evaluate the rights proposed for conveyance and, in its discretion, refuse to accept any right. We also are asking to add a condition in the first paragraph that talks about not associated with a developed or identified developable water source as one of the additional conditions. What that's implied to do is to make the value of the water rights more solid as we rely upon them in the future. There's many water rights that people may have owned as a paper water right but never fully developed in the past. We're asking for the ability to now make sure that that water is actually water that has been capable of being produced and protected under water right law. And then adding the two conditions in the lower paragraph, which looks at water source sufficiency and water quality. So again, it doesn't substantively change anything that the council approved back in 1998. It just provides some additional clarification. And again, this is not intended to impact anything that we have before us today or anything that we see coming in the immediate future. It's just trying to be proactive and make sure that whatever we take as a city will serve the city to its best interest and not become an undue hardship. So it would be, I guess, an opportunity for you to discuss it and see if you have any directions, and then following your direction, we'll proceed through the steps of Planning Commission and City Council, should you direct the mayor to have us do so.
Okay. Are there any questions for Paul right now?
So the state decides what water we have, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so that this doesn't affect that?
No, the water rights, the city owns several water rights that the state regulates. They regulate all water rights. What this basically does, though, is the state has defined the valley into three distinct zones where they will allow water to move from water rights from east to west, but they will not allow them to move from west to east because our side of the valley is more heavily appropriated. In fact, it may be over-appropriated in many areas. So what we would do is if someone comes in with a desire to bring water rights to it, we first send them to the state and say, check with the state and make sure that they would conceptually approve that water right change application, that it works with their rules. If they say yes, then we would look at it like we always do with those conditions and say, okay, what is the water? Where is it? What kind of quantity is it? Is it sustainable? Is it reliable? Those types of questions.
But it has to have a wet water source, like
We're doing that as something to be able to take into consideration. This would be more critical if someone were to, I don't know where they'd find it, but if someone were to bring in 100 acre-feet of water or 200 acre-feet at a time, we can more easily accommodate someone that has a few acre-feet in the wells that we're developing. But if someone were to bring in a large block, it may overwhelm our current well capacity, and we may have to look at saying, well, we can accept it, but can we use it there? Could we develop a well at the present location and bring that into the city? So again, it's just a tool in our toolbox to help manage resources.
Okay.
So we got these 2 wells that we've just, I don't know if they're all the way online yet or not, but
Yes.
the ones we've been developing. So when we develop wells like that, do we have water rights that we put
Yes.
into them wells?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
What we do is we put in a combination of them. We put in some of our water rights, and we also reserve some amount to put in water rights as they're brought to the city. The city has obligation to provide a number of water right obligations currently, and you're aware of those different obligations throughout the city. So we have to protect our ability to meet those needs with a certain capacity on all of those wells. But we do reserve space to bring other water rights in.
Okay, and so the state determines how much water's in them wells?
It's-
Or
it's-
do you do that through you and the state together? Or
Both.
how does that work?
We do it through both.
Okay,
Ultimately, the state, a water right is a fishing license to go find water.
Sure.
No guarantee you're going to find it. We put water rights into a source to a capacity that we believe would equal or exceed what the well could potentially produce. Once the well is put online and used for a number of years, and we make sure that the water level is sustainable, that it can produce that water, then we'll file a proof of use with the state on those water rights, and then that will set that cap number. But right now, we leave it open to give us the most flexibility in what we're doing.
and they allow you that for, the
Yes,
state allows that for indefinite or not, or?
not
You have to
indefinite.
do it within a certain amount of time?
You have so much time to put a water right to use,
Okay,
and we're obligated to do that. We have no exceptions that other municipalities don't have, but yes, you have to put it to use within a certain amount of time.
all right. I think that's mine.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I had a number of questions, and you've explained it, that it's a tool for the city, and I can really appreciate that. One thing I was wondering, and you said that it's divided up into quadrants. Where is the eastern and the central boundaries that's written here?
That's defined by the state, but basically it's a third. If you were to go to the low point of the valley, which is at the Great Salt Lake, and then draw a radial line back and divide the city into 3 zones, that's approximately how the state engineer's office has done it. They've got a little bit of flexibility where they go back and forth. But we're in the easternmost zone.
So Tooele is in the eastern.
Yes.
So this is a big valley, because it
Right.
incorporates, pardon me, the whole valley. Okay,
Grantsville would be in the western, and then Deseret Peak, that center part of the valley would be in that center portion.
Okay. And then I also had a concern about enacting the ordinance kind of with the time frame without prior planning commission recommendation of the public hearing, because I think this is really important.
You're not taking any action tonight.
Yeah,
There's no
certainly, it's
formal
just
action on this
discussion.
ordinance. This is just
Yeah.
discussion. But as I'm understanding it, this discussion tonight, should you choose to proceed, at least proceed with the process, would establish a date whereby this would become effective immediately as an option for us for a time period not to exceed 6 months. Should the council want to proceed and the planning commission approve, and then it would come back to the city for a formal action, your vote at that time could make it permanent or deny it. And if no action is taken within 6 months, then it's done anyway. So it's just an opportunity to allow that thorough research and to give you as a council and the planning commission the appropriate time to measure the impact.
Okay. And then it would be, if we enacted it, it would be a 6-month period where anything that was approved before wouldn't be impacted by this, is that correct?
It would
So
just be
anything after-
from today, should we proceed with this direction.
Okay,
And again, we have no applications that this would impact today.
okay. And then I'm sorry, I have quite a few questions. Item number 10, there's kind of a warning in there. If the city council finds that failing to approve this ordinance, could be contrary to the legislative policies. So I just wondered if you could kind of explain that to me.
Roger wrote that. I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
I'll let him present that when we come back to you.
Okay. Okay.
I think the gist of what he's trying to say is that this is something that we believe is in the best interest of the city. And that if we don't have these tools in our toolbox, it could result in the city taking paper water rights that really have no potential for development, and then we'd have to make that up somewhere else. I think that's the gist of what it says, but I'll let him define that better.
Well, that helps me, because I did. And I'm just wondering, is there, like, some of this information, the evidence, is this from, like, a water study, or, where is this coming from?
No, it's just from our experience as we've been trying to develop water resources in the city for the last number of years. I have 25 years of knowledge in the city trying to look for wells, and others have that much or more, and it's just a matter of trying to do the best thing we can to protect the city's interests, not to be adverse to developers, but to make sure that what we do get is sustainable for development.
And we certainly appreciate your expertise, so thank you. So, that helps to answer the questions I had. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, would everyone like to see this go through the process? And I feel comfortable doing that. I make sure we have
I mean,
enough.
in this world, 6 months isn't very long, so I don't see it as a problem, so.
Me too.
I
Okay,
did see on item 8, it says the date being May 2nd, 2025, in parentheses, the date of publication of the May 9th, 2025.
that should be the 7th.
7th, yeah.
That should be
That
today's
was-
date on that.
Yeah, that was the only thing I saw in there.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions, comments?
Will this also include some of the developable water that we're talking about? We've got some future plans for some well sites. Will this also include that?
It would involve water rights that the city accepts in satisfaction of this ordinance. It would not impact any water rights that Tooele City currently holds.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is a discussion on code text amendments for animal control. This is presented by Adrian Day, the police chief.
Thank you, Council Chair and Council. Come in front of you tonight for proposed changes and want to know if you are in favor to bring in a future business meeting. I understand you have a copy of 641 in front of you. It's unlawful to harbor any stray animals. I see two things in here. It's unlawful for any person to take in a stray or lost animal. And if it's a cat or dog, you must notify the shelter within 24 hours and it shall be impounded, the cat or dog. We've had people take in horses and cows on their property until we are able to find owners. And people do take in dogs and cats, get on social media and find owners that way, and I don't want to discourage that. I propose changing it to unlawful unless they notify the shelter, let us know they're doing it, and if they're able to find it, and then change the impound to may instead of shall. If it's aggressive or some other reason, we could impound it if we needed to. The other changes are all to definitions. The first definitions under the wild or exotic animals. If you go to the bottom, it's wild animal under definition. It's K. It's dealing with ferrets and saying they are wild animal unless domesticated. I've never dealt with a ferret in this city. I've dealt with badgers, rattlesnakes, mountain lions, but no ferrets. Google says they are domesticated except for the black-footed ferret in North America, so it's endangered. I propose just taking it out of wild animal and putting it in domesticated unless there's strong feelings otherwise.
I don't even know if we have ferrets in our county, wild ones.
Yeah.
We have pet ones. I know people have them, but yeah.
Yes.
There's no reason to have it there, yeah.
And I can't see owners calling them anything but domesticated and possibly service ferrets. I don't know.
Really? Okay.
Service ferret.
Under the animal at-large definition at the beginning of the definitions, I propose removing cats from it because we don't enforce cats being at large. They don't have a propensity to attack or bite humans when they're unprovoked. When you go to pick them up, that may be different, and if they're causing a nuisance, we can charge them under the nuisance code. And the last one is the animal under restraint definition, which includes cats. Again, I don't know anybody who restrains their cats. So I would like to remove that one and keep that with the dogs and farm animals if that applies. And going back to the animals at large, if the council would like, we could add farm animals under there with dogs at large. We can't currently charge at large animals. We can use that under the nuisance, which we have done, but farm animals tend to cause more damage to gardens, fences, which could still be under nuisance. It's just at a bigger dollar amount, and they tend to cause damage to vehicles when they hit them on the street, the big ones. So that's, I don't know, I don't have a proposal on that. I don't know if council has strong feelings either way on that one.
I think the person that has the large animals and they're loose and they're destroying property should be responsible for sure. However you change that to make sure they are. I don't know that it's not already there, but.
Okay. Yeah, it's only at large, we can only enforce cats and dogs, so we'll remove cats and add.
I mean, I know my horses get loose, my cows get loose.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had them damage anything hard, but it still could happen,
Right.
So it only includes cats or dogs, but then when you read the code, it says, it is unlawful for the owner or person having charge, care, custody, or control of any animal.
But when you look at animal at large definition, I just want to change the definition. I think the code's great, but
Yeah.
just the definition.
Do you have to specify, like, say cow or horse, or can you just change it to where it's any animal?
I mean, yeah, we could say.
Like the code says, that's,
We could just change it to any animal. I'd just say, except for a cat in the definition itself.
maybe the ferret. Is it a ferret you said? Is that large and eating something? I don't know.
I've never seen a wild ferret. Of course, people have tame ferrets, they do, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
we
that
had
theoretically could be an animal at large, right?
Yeah.
Any animal if you left it broad like that.
Yeah.
Might
Yeah, and
kill
we
your
had an
chickens.
argument when we charged for livestock being out, and just because of the definition, that brought it to my attention.
I would support just changing the definition to include
Any
all
animal.
animals except cats.
Okay. Any, you good with the wild animals?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Removing ferrets,
Ferret from there, yeah.
putting them under domestic?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, Chief, do we have a campaign to get this information out to the public, or how's this information shared? Or is it just when a problem comes up, then people say, oh, well, I didn't realize that was in the ordinance, or, so.
It tends to be when it comes up, and we're pretty good on warnings on
First time type.
first
First
offenders,
offense,
and
okay.
the judge tends to be pretty easy on first offenders also.
And it seems to be common sense type situations too, if you're an animal owner and responsible.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 is a closed meeting. We don't have anything tonight for a closed meeting, so we will adjourn at 6:14 PM and we'll reconvene at 7 PM for the RDA meeting.